No trespassing. The vanishing path. The no trespassing sign still stood. Weathered. Worn. But this time, the name beneath the warning had changed. Amara. Detective Lena Graves leaned in, brushing her fingers against the faded letters. This wasn't the first time she had investigated Hollow Creek Woods. People vanished here. Some returned. Most didn't. But what made this case different was the woman who had returned. Amara Sullivan. She had stumbled out of these woods months ago with a man named Ethan, both of them barely alive. They had refused to talk about what happened. Then, Ethan disappeared. Again. And now, so had Amara. Lena exhaled, pulling out a notebook. The town had whispered about this place for decades. But this wasn't folklore. This was real. People came in. People never left. And now, it was her turn to find out why. The first steps into the woods, Lena wasn't superstitious, but something was wrong here. The moment she crossed the boundary, the world changed. The air felt thicker. The silence too deep. Her radio crackled. "Detective Graves, do you copy?" Lena pressed the receiver. "Yeah, static." Her stomach clenched. She had barely walked 5 feet in. This wasn't normal. She took another step forward. The trees shifted. For a split second, it was as if the entire forest had breathed. She turned sharply, scanning her surroundings. The sign was still there, but something else was too. The trail. It hadn't been there before. A thin, winding path stretching deeper into the woods. And at the very end, a flickering light. Lena's grip tightened on her flashlight. A house. No. A cabin. The same one Amara and Ethan had been found near. She swallowed hard. And then, a voice whispered from the trees. "You shouldn't be here." The cabin. Lena's instincts screamed at her to turn back. But she had come for answers. She stepped onto the rotting porch and pushed the door open. Inside, the air was thick with dust, stale and unmoving. A tape recorder sat on a table, and across the room, a woman stood facing the wall. Dark hair. Pale skin. Amara. "Amara?" Lena called. The woman didn't move. Lena stepped closer. "Amara, it's Detective Graves. I'm here to get you out." Silence. Then, the woman turned. Lena's breath caught. It wasn't Amara. It looked like her. But it wasn't. The eyes were wrong. Black. Hollow. Endless. The thing smiled. "You shouldn't be here." The door slammed shut behind Lena. And then, the tape recorder clicked on. "Help me, please." It was her own voice. No trespassing. The curse unveiled. Inside the cabin, Detective Lena Graves' heart pounded. The thing that looked like Amara stared at her, empty black eyes swallowing the dim light. The tape recorder crackled. Her own voice. "Help me, please." Lena forced herself to move, her hand brushing against her gun. "What the hell is this place?" she demanded. The doppelganger smiled. "You already know." Then it lunged. Lena fired. Bang. But the bullet passed through air. The creature vanished. The only sound left was the tape recorder. Click. A new voice. "Detective Graves. You were warned." Lena's blood ran cold. She recognized the voice. Her own. The curse runs deep. Lena didn't believe in ghosts or curses, but she believed in patterns. She yanked open drawers, flipped through decaying papers, searching for anything that could explain why people vanished here. Then she saw it. A ledger. Names, dates, decades of them. every person who had disappeared in Hollow Creek Woods. And at the bottom, her name, scrawled in ink. Lena Graves, 2025. Her breath hitched. This wasn't possible. She grabbed the book, shoving it into her bag. She needed to get out. But as she turned, the cabin door was gone. Just a wall. No windows. No exit. And then, a whisper at her ear. You can't leave until you choose. The choice, the room shifted. The air warped. Memories that weren't hers flashing in her mind. Amara, Ethan, others before them. Every single one had faced the choice. Stay, or let someone else take your place. Lena's pulse pounded. No, she refused. There had to be another way. She reached for her radio. Static. Her flashlight flickered, a second too long. And when it came back on, she was outside, standing at the edge of the woods. The no trespassing sign loomed in front of her. Her name was gone, but a new one had taken its place. The next victim, Lena stumbled back, gasping. She was free, but someone else wasn't. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Welcome back, Detective. Well, see you soon. Lena looked at the woods one last time. The trees stood still, silent, waiting, because the curse wasn't over. It had simply moved on to someone else. And next time, it might not let go. No trespassing. The endless hunt. The message Lena Graves had seen horrors before. Murder scenes, missing persons, cold cases that never made sense. But nothing compared to this. She stared at the message on her phone. Welcome back, Detective. We'll see you soon. Her fingers hovered over the screen, debating whether to respond. But deep down, she knew. It didn't matter. They were already watching. A new disappearance the next morning. A case landed on her desk. A missing person. Name, Jace Holloway. Last seen, near Hollow Creek Woods. Lena's stomach dropped. She flipped open the file. The details were eerily familiar. Jace had gone hiking with friends. They took a wrong turn. He never came back. The witnesses. They all said the same thing. They saw him standing at the edge of the woods, staring. Then, he just walked in, like something had called him. And now, he was gone. A return to Hollow Creek, Lena swore she wouldn't go back. She had escaped. She had been lucky, but Jace wasn't. And if there was one thing Lena knew, it was that luck always runs out. So, she went back. The trees loomed taller than before, as if they had grown since she left. The no trespassing sign still stood, and now a new name was carved beneath it. Jace Holloway. Lena swallowed hard and stepped forward. The woods welcomed her. The forest knows the deeper she went, the heavier the air became. Like something was watching. No, like something was waiting. Then, a whisper. Soft, barely audible, but clear. Lena, you shouldn't have come back. She froze. It was Jace's voice. She turned in a slow circle. Nothing. Just trees. But then, she saw it. A figure deeper in the woods. Still. Watching. Lena's breath hitched. Jace? The figure did move. She took a step forward. So did it. She took another. So did it. Then, the whispering started again. Not one voice. Hundreds. From the trees. The ground. The air itself. Lena, run. But before she could, the ground beneath her vanished, and she fell. The room of shadows, Lena hit cold wood. Not dirt. Not forest. A floor. She pushed herself up, disoriented, and realized she was back in the cabin. But this time, she wasn't alone. Across the room, standing perfectly still, was Jace. Or at least, something that looked like him. His eyes were black, empty. His lips curled into a smile. You shouldn't have come back. Lena's pulse pounded. She knew the rules. She knew the game. And this time, there might not be an escape. Because this time, the woods wanted her to stay. Forever. No trespassing. The final escape. Trapped in the cabin, Lena's hands clenched into fists as she stared at Jace. Or whatever was pretending to be him. The cabin was silent. Too silent. The air was thick, heavy, pressing against her skin like unseen hands. The thing that looked like Jace smiled. You shouldn't have come back. Lena stepped back, her pulse hammering. She needed to think. Fast, because she knew the truth now. This place wasn't haunted. It was a trap, a never-ending cycle of taking. The woods didn't just steal people. They used them. And unless she stopped it, it would never end. The ledger of names, her eyes darted around the room. The cabin had to hold answers. She spotted the ledger on the table, the one that had listed her name before. She snatched it up, flipping through its brittle pages. Hundreds of names. Each one belonged to someone the woods had taken. Some names were crossed out. Some weren't. And then, at the very bottom, Jace Holloway. The ink was fresh. Lena's throat tightened. That meant he was still alive. But if she didn't act fast, he wouldn't be for long. The woods demand a sacrifice, a low voice whispered from behind her. One must take the other's place. Lena turned sharply. Jace was closer now, his black eyes gleaming. That's the rule, detective. Lena's grip on the ledger tightened. Every missing person had faced the same choice. Escape. Or trade places. But what if there was a third option? What if she could break the cycle? Her mind raced. She needed to sever the connection between the woods and its victims. She needed to destroy the ledger. If the names were the key, then maybe wiping them out would free everyone. The fire begins. Lena didn't hesitate. She pulled out a lighter from her pocket. The thing wearing Jace's face tilted its head. What are you doing? Lena flicked the flame to life. If the woods can't keep their names, she said, her voice steady, then maybe they can't keep their souls. She dropped the flame onto the ledger. The paper ignited instantly. A piercing scream erupted, not from Jace, but from the cabin itself. The walls shook. The floor split apart. Dark tendrils of smoke lashed out, clawing at her, at the burning pages. Lena grabbed Jace's wrist and ran. The forest fights back. The cabin collapsed behind them, but the woods weren't letting go. The trees twisted, contorting into monstrous shapes. Shadowy figures emerged from the dark, shrieking. But Lena and Jace didn't stop. They couldn't. The no trespassing sign was ahead, their way out. Lena pushed forward, dragging Jace with her. The moment their feet crossed the boundary, silence. The whispers stopped. The air was light again. The woods were just woods. The curse was broken. The aftermath. Days later, Lena stood at the edge of Hollow Creek Woods, staring at the burned remains of the cabin. Jace had no memory of what happened. Most people wouldn't believe her, but she knew what she saw. And she knew this wasn't over. Because even though the woods were quiet now, they were only waiting. And the next time someone ignored the sign, there might not be anyone left to save them.